What you're seeing might look like a random scene of trash picking, but it's far from that. It's actually just a normal secondhand car deal at a scrapyard. Yes, this is the same scrapyard where I stumbled upon a burnt-up little motorbike not too long ago. The moment the scrapyard owner spotted that bike, he looked at me with hopeful eyes and said, 6360. This figure, simple as it was, represented the history and utility of a vehicle that had once been a cornerstone for many entrepreneurs starting their journeys. The Wuling Sunshine I came across that day was no exception. With its outstanding space utilization and functional design, this van had naturally earned its place as a reliable partner for countless small business owners striving to make their mark. But now, it was battered, rusted, and left to languish among the piles of discarded metal. When I announced my intention to fix it, I could feel the doubt in the air. People around gave me skeptical looks, silently asking, "Is this really the same car? Are you serious?" Trust me, I have no reason to lie. To prove my sincerity and perhaps to test my skills, the scrapyard owner reached deep into his inventory and pulled out what he called his hidden treasure. It was a Wuling Sunshine, battered beyond recognition, but it carried with it a story of ambition and failure. The van had been his loyal companion during his early entrepreneurial days. It had transported goods, carried supplies, and been a silent witness to his struggles and determination. But after his business ventures didn't pan out, he shifted careers, and the once beloved van ended up here in the scrapyard. Despite everything, he couldn't bring himself to let it go completely. In his heart, he wanted this old van to find a second life, a new purpose. I assured him, "This car? I'll fix it up like new." With Wuling's reputation for durability and my own expertise as a mechanic, I could already see its potential. The image of a sturdy, off-road utility van began forming in my mind. The owner, seeing my enthusiasm, seemed to trust me. To show his support, he personally helped push the car out and even offered me a friendly price based on its weight. But right after I sealed the deal, the van decided to throw me a curveball. It was as if the car itself wanted to test my resolve. When I tried to start it up, I immediately noticed the battery was gone. A freshly sold car with no battery? That's not exactly promising. The scrapyard owner, perhaps feeling a little guilty, came over to offer help, but I waved him off. I had my trusty toolbox and plenty of experience. After cleaning the throttle body and fixing a few connections, the engine sputtered back to life. That's the beauty of a Wuling. It's built to last, even when it's been through the ringer. Hearing that 1.0-liter engine rumble made all my efforts worthwhile. Still, some might wonder, why go through all this trouble for an old van like that? For me, it's not just about fixing a car. It's about breathing new life into something that has been discarded, giving it a purpose again. My journey didn't stop there. Another Wuling, a Wuling Star, soon caught my eye. This one had an even rougher story. Once a symbol of ambition, it had been sidelined by time and circumstance. Its body was riddled with rust, the engine was weak, the transmission slipped, and fluids leaked everywhere. The interior? Let's just say it wasn't for the faint of heart. Moldy carpets, a cracked dashboard, and a rusted floorboard made it clear that this was going to be a challenging rebuild. But I wasn't discouraged. In fact, I was excited. I had a vision for this van, to transform it into a rugged off-road beast. The first step? Lifting the suspension, reinforcing the chassis, and upgrading its core components. I wanted to build a vehicle that could conquer mountains, cross rivers, and tackle any terrain. As I started taking it apart, the full extent of the damage became clear. The floor was rusted through, the carpets smelled like they'd been sitting in a swamp, and the dashboard crumbled at the slightest touch. Every piece I removed revealed more issues, more decay. It was like opening a time capsule filled with decades of neglect. Still, I saw potential in every broken part. Piece by piece, I planned to rebuild it. The Wuling might be old and worn out, but with some effort, care, and a few upgrades, it could become something extraordinary. This isn't just about restoring a car. It's about proving that even the most beaten-down things can have a second chance. In the end, these old vans have stories to tell. They've seen the rise and fall of dreams, the struggles of their owners, and the passage of time. And now, with a little help, they're about to start a whole new chapter. You might be wondering, do I know how much trouble I'm getting myself into with this project? Absolutely I do. But giving up, that's not in my vocabulary. With so much support from others and a clear goal in mind, it's just rebuilding a car, right? How hard could it be? Still, as I keep pulling more junk out of this vehicle, it feels like my wallet is shrinking with every handful. Honestly, looking at the chaos in front of me, if I had the chance to do this all over again, maybe, just maybe, I'd think twice. The previous owner, I've got to admit, had some clever ideas. They even went as far as installing an air conditioner, which might sound great. But for the rugged off-road machine I have in mind, that air conditioner is completely useless. Worse, it drags down the engine's performance. After what felt like a lifetime of tinkering, my team and I finally got the engine out. It wasn't pretty, leaks everywhere, layers of grease caked onto every surface, and a list of issues that seemed to go on forever. Fixing the engine? Sure, that's manageable. But the real challenge is turning this old, worn-out vehicle into an off-road beast capable of conquering mountains and trails. If you think restoring a car like this is easy, let me stop you right there. I've already stripped the front end, and what I found underneath? It's a disaster. The exterior might look bad, but the inside, 10 times worse. Despite all this, I'm not backing down. You see, no matter how tough life gets, adversity has a way of lighting a fire inside you. It forces you to push past your limits, to adapt, to grow stronger. This car might look like a lost cause now, but mark my words, it will rise again. Together, we'll give it a new purpose. As I dug deeper into the car, I peeled back the rubber seals, only to find rust and rot everywhere. The main frame was barely holding together, and sections of the chassis had completely rusted through. Honestly, it looked hopeless. The first step was to strip everything down, remove the moldy rubber, scrape off the old adhesive, and clean the bodywork. Even the ceiling was beyond repair, a sad reminder of how neglected this car had been. Looking at the state of things, I couldn't help but wonder how the previous owner had let it fall apart like this. A little maintenance could have saved it from reaching this point. Even the window tint had bubbled and peeled away, another victim of time and neglect. I grabbed my tools and got to work, carefully scraping away layers of grime and sanding down the thick, flaky paint to prepare for a fresh coat. Every inch of this car needed attention. The rusted areas had to be patched, the structure reinforced, and the body reshaped. Slowly, the vision I had in my head began to take shape. My goal? To lift the suspension, add oversized off-road wheels, and transform this relic into a rugged, trail-conquering machine. Of course, the journey hasn't been smooth. Finding the right parts has been a challenge. I searched everywhere for a suitable chassis, but nothing seemed to fit. Every option was either incompatible or unavailable. After exhausting all my options, I decided to take a different approach. I combined the chassis of a pickup truck with the body of this Wuling. It wasn't the perfect solution, but it worked. Sometimes you just have to make it work. Then came one of the most exciting steps, installing the new wheels. These weren't just any wheels. They were large, aggressive off-road tires that gave the car a whole new stance. Once they were mounted, the transformation was undeniable. Suddenly, this beaten-up van didn't look so hopeless anymore. I could finally see the results of all my hard work. This project is about more than just restoring an old van. It's about breathing life into something forgotten, proving that even the most battered and neglected things can have a second chance. It's a reminder that with enough determination, patience, and effort, anything is possible. The next time you see this car, it won't just be a broken-down van from the past. It'll be a bold, rugged off-road machine ready to take on mountains, rivers, and any adventure that comes its way. So stay tuned, because this journey is far from over. Hey everyone, so the three of us, your classic three heads are better than one team, spent a long time debating how to fix up this car. After analyzing the increased dimensions caused by lifting the chassis, we hit a snag. When turning, the tires were rubbing against the fenders. It was clear that we needed to raise the suspension. If we didn't, the car simply wouldn't handle properly on tight turns. After some brainstorming and testing, we found a straightforward solution. By adding spacers to the shock absorbers and extending the steel brackets that hold them in place, we could give the car the lift it needed. It sounded simple enough in theory, so we got to work. We brought the car to the workshop and measured all the dimensions carefully. To make sure I understood, the expert on site drew up detailed blueprints to explain the process. I'll admit, my formal education isn't great, but I've got decent hands-on skills. And with the help of someone who knew their science, I could really see how knowledge and practical skills go hand in hand. Honestly, looking back, I regret not paying more attention in school. Instead of studying, I was out chasing cows. What a waste of time. As we worked, I got to chatting with the technician while ordering materials like steel plates and custom brackets. After some time, we had the lift spacers fabricated and ready to go. Once everything was prepped, we tightened the bolts, extended the brackets, and installed the custom parts. Watching the pieces come together gave me a sense of accomplishment. It was all starting to take shape. With the suspension raised, it was time to reinstall the engine. Thanks to the help of the expert technician, this step went surprisingly smoothly. However, even with the lift, we encountered a new issue. The engine was rubbing against the frame. To solve this, we trimmed a small section of the frame to make room. It wasn't a big adjustment, but it made all the difference. Finally, after a lot of effort, the engine and chassis were fully restored and reassembled. But the job wasn't done yet. Next up was the interior. Let me tell you, it was in shambles. The seat covers were ripped, the materials were mismatched, and the overall state was an eyesore. I couldn't stand it. Everything had to go. I decided to strip the entire interior and take it to the workshop for a complete overhaul. When I asked the technician how long it would take, he confidently replied, 3 days tops. While that might sound quick, it still felt like a long wait. But I knew that with patience and determination, the car would eventually look as amazing as I envisioned. This is still the same Wuling van I bought for what some might call an outrageous price, $5,400 At the time, people thought I was crazy for spending that much on a clunker. But now, after hours of hard work and a lot of love, it's no longer the wreck it used to be. The suspension has been lifted, the engine is running great, and today I began transforming its exterior. The first step? Applying a fresh film to the body. The result? Stunning. It looks sleek, modern, and ready for action. Combined with its improved off-road capabilities, this van is starting to look like the dream vehicle I had in mind when I first bought it, but there's still more to do. Next on the list is building a roll cage. Anyone familiar with off-roading knows how essential a strong roll cage is for safety. When you're tackling rough and unpredictable terrain, you need to be prepared for anything. Designing and fabricating the roll cage took some careful thought, so I worked with a design expert to ensure it would be strong enough to handle any challenges. As I stand back and look at how far this project has come, I can't help but feel proud. This journey has been more than just fixing up an old van. It's been about transformation. What started as a rusty, beaten-down vehicle is slowly turning into a rugged off-road beast. I've been thinking, could this van handle a roll cage? Honestly, Master Joe's creativity seems to know no bounds. He didn't just propose the idea of adding a roll cage. He suggested mounting it on the exterior of the van. At first I was skeptical, but he had such a clear vision that I couldn't resist giving it a try. "Need my help?" he asked with a grin. After some brainstorming and discussions with our head designer, we finalized the plan. A custom-built roll cage made specifically for this van. First, we took detailed measurements to make sure everything would fit perfectly. The plan called for 4 steel bars, each one 0.5 meters long. Once we had all the dimensions figured out, we got the materials ready and started fabricating. To preserve the clean and sleek look of the newly revamped interior, I decided the roll cage would be mounted on the outside. It was the perfect way to balance functionality and aesthetics. Choosing the right color for the cage took some time. Master Joe and I went back and forth, debating different options. In the end, we selected a combination that complemented the rugged, adventurous vibe of the van. Meanwhile, the interior overhaul was in full swing. The new seats, inspired by Hermes designs, were a game changer. Sitting in those plush, stylish seats made the van feel like a completely different vehicle. It was a little slice of luxury in an otherwise gritty restoration project. As much as I loved the result, my wallet wasn't as thrilled. This transformation wasn't cheap, but before I had time to dwell on the cost, there was more work to do. When it came to the roll cage, precision was everything. The van's body has subtle curves, which meant the steel pipes couldn't just be installed as is. Each bar had to be carefully bent and shaped to match the contours of the van. Using a pipe bending machine, I worked slowly and methodically, adjusting each bend little by little. Measure, bend, measure again. It was a painstaking process. Even the slightest mistake could throw off the alignment, forcing me to start over from scratch. The real challenge was creating a design that was both functional and visually appealing. The cage needed to provide enough strength to protect the van on rough terrains, while also fitting seamlessly into the overall look. It wasn't easy, but the end result was worth every bit of effort. Finally, it was time to install the roll cage. With three of us working together, the installation process went smoothly. Slowly but surely, we watched the pieces come together, and the van started to take on its new identity. Standing back and looking at the progress, I couldn't help but feel a deep sense of pride. This was more than just a car project. It was a labor of love. Thinking back to when this van first came into my hands, it's almost hard to believe how far it's come. When I got it, it was a beaten-down shell of its former self, nearly forgotten by time. This van had once been full of life, climbing mountains and crossing rivers, only to be left behind. But that's no